Christmas is over and it's back to the stock market. Welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a great day. Let's talk about Palantir Technologies and what could be happening for the stock going into 2024, especially since we have some large announcements and what Palantir is really working on in changing its business metrics and also its operations. Now, talking about this and exciting things ahead for Palantir is its development into the private sector. So before we get too far, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just collecting on the data and dispatching it to you. Now, pull it up on the screen here, talking about Palantir, where it sits at right now, grows a little bit on the day. We see up about 1.5%. in line with the global markets that are up about 0.5% today, talking about the Dow Jones, S&P, and the NASDAQ. Now, where Palantir is sitting at is in this 17s area and closes here at 1768. Looking at trading volume, actually coming in slightly a little bit lower at 31 million. The stock market could not also just be as busy as it is holiday season right now going into New Year's, but nonetheless, you have Palantir that is sitting right beneath that $40 billion market cap. One thing that's really interesting about Palantir right now that I do like personally is this support level at about the 17s that is continuing to be established. As we know, when Palantir is kind of in its consolidation phase, usually likes to trade between the 13s and the 15s. So finding this new settlement point at this next step in incremental level at the 17s, I think is not just healthy for the stock, but great for Palantir when it wants to test its resistance point again. And that level is at that $20 resistance point where it recently broke out and even hit a new recent 52-week year-to-date high at 21.85. Now, quickly coming over to the option sides of Palantir and what we have for expirations at the end of the week before the new year is lots of call volume at the $18 and the $19 strike price. And here in the short term, we can see that a lot of people are taking a bullish perspective on Palantir here in the near future. Now, going into next year, you can see this continues on compared to the put volume right here is a lot of bullishness coming into it. Now, the talk about Palantir is what is next year going to bring? How is Palantir going to continue to prove to Wall Street that it is one of the top competitors in the AI industry like it already has? However, the bar keeps getting set higher and higher for Palantir to achieve. Now, Yahoo Finance coming out here talking about how Palantir is up 170% this year. Can this rally continue? Now, let's talk about this. Does a great job highlighting the current state of Palantir. Now, what we have to talk about are the accomplishments that Palantir has made throughout 2023. And with that being said, you have Palantir that has gone through large price swings, and we've even seen the stock losing nearly 87% of its value. However, we had to remember since Palantir's IPO, it actually hit an all-time high in 2021, if you're newer to the stock, at $45. So right now, it's still selling at about a 60% discount compared to that all-time high in 2021. And talking about valuation and premiums for a stock, yes, Palantir is highly premium, but think of how premium and how valuated it was before in terms of the actual price that people are willing to pay for it in comparison to now with the financials that are supporting it. Now, talking about that and why it might rally into 2024. People have criticized that Palantir is already up 170%. How much room is there going to be for this hyper growth? And the thing is, I think is important to understand is that hyper growth is not always the answer, and especially some of these speculative stocks. AI stocks, more of these startup tech stocks, even though Palantir I want to say is a startup, but more of a speculative tech stock, is going to mature over time. And we see this with many stocks as they will start to mature over time. Now, talking about that, what Palantir has really shown in terms of bullishness and why I've seen bullishness in Palantir specifically is with the AIP bootcamp. And why this AIP bootcamp is important is because now Palantir, and I agree with this Motley Fool article here, talking about just isn't at the mercy of winning the governmental contracts. Now, Palantir's history was that a majority of its revenue income was reliant on those government contracts. Now, being said, we see Palantir that is taking this dive and is splitting the road into this private sector. And talking about that, the revenue for its U.S. commercial sector business rose 33%. So it increased here a third, and in its later quarter, even accounts for just 20% of its current operation. So talking about that, Palantir still has a very large market to tap into in terms of the private sector. And with the AIP bootcamp, we're seeing a lot of productivity gains, not just with potential clients, but also with current partnerships that are continuing to extend. And with that being said, we have Palantir right here talking about into 2024 with its prospective growth and talking about how Palantir has already grown in terms of that commercial side of things, is that Palantir also has a great balance sheet. And with that being said, they have a lot of cash on hand, which means they can invest a lot into their resources and basically zero debt. Now, also, Palantir has established many types of partnerships and is continuing to grow these different types of partnerships. We saw this with the continuation of their Army Vantage contract. Yes, that came in at a slightly lower valuation with more vendors coming in, but I think this competition keeps Palantir on its toes and trying to keep this company ahead in terms of having the best type of AI data analytic software. Now, what we saw was the renewed partnership with UniCred. We've seen collaborations with PwC. We've seen them secure that National Health Service contract deal. We've seen this with another Army contract deal. Is the fact that Palantir has publicly announced many large contracts, and I think this will only continue into 2024 for PLTR, as I think a lot of companies are looking into AI data analytics software to really improve the efficiency and also the productivity, and also which brings cost savings to their business. And I think tapping into the private sector is a great move by Palantir. And in terms of other large investors who are also keeping this on the forefront is ARK Investment, who, if you don't know who ARK Investment is, led by Kathy Wood here, is a large ETF that really invests in stocks that have a disruptive technology approach. And what we're seeing here is growing positions in Palantir Technologies. Right here is that the fund has actually owned 9.4 million shares of the company after purchasing an additional 2.5 million shares during the period. And they really increased their stake in Palantir overall by 37.7% during the third quarter. And talking about this and what you've seen with this filings is that we've had different ETFs, different index funds that are continuing to increase their stake in Palantir. And I think there's going to be a lot of exciting announcements, not just coming into 2024, but that will continue into 2025. Now, let's quickly talk about some of the criticisms, because of course it's not always bells and whistles, and I don't want to tell you guys always the good things. What are the criticisms that are for the stock? Number one is you have the high valuation. You have that coming in at basically 71 times for its forward to earnings ratio. Now, with that being said, yes, Palantir is highly valued in terms of the actual sales that it is bringing in. But an argument against that is that it's a tech stock. Palantir is always traded at a high premium, and could this just be growing into its valuation that it has right now? The second piece of criticism that Palantir does have is the decelerated revenue growth rate. As Palantir said, they were expecting to be about 30% year over year. This has been under 30% year over year. So this is one of the two criticisms that you have against Palantir. And that you really just need to take with a grain of salt and do your own risk assessment, of course, before investing in more of a speculative stock like Palantir, and especially an AI stock that a lot of people say that is in a bubble right now. And I don't completely disagree with that, considering the valuations that we saw for all the AI stocks in 2023, not just talking about Palantir specifically. So with that, it just basically comes to your risk assessment. Yes, I think Palantir is highly valued right now in terms of valuation from what it's actually bringing in, but so are all the other AI stocks. So I don't think that's an outlier or an outstanding variable that takes Palantir off my watch list. I think it has a lot of room for growth, growing into its valuation, and also expansion in terms of the private sector, getting into these private clients and really diversifying its clienteles and not just being, like what Motley Fool talks about, at the mercy of its governmental contracts. And I think this is one of the biggest catalysts for Palantir's growth into 2024. Let me know your thoughts. Leave it down in the comments. Catch you guys later, and peace out.